Yeah. It is 7 o'clock. I'll call this meeting to order. We do have a quorum. I just need approval of the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda as presented. Second.
Bob called, made the motion, and Bob Bauska seconded it. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Opposed, the same. Motion passes. Item 4 is the board's common message. The Owens School Board strives to provide an environment where students.
It's done.
What?
That's really loud.
What was that?
It's my phone vibrating. It's
Oh, I was like.
I was wondering why the
I
video
knew
was
it wasn't
vibrating.
mine, so, okay. It's like, what is that? Okay, hopefully it's not somebody saying they can't come. All right, I'll start over. The Owens School Board strives to provide an environment where students can be happy, healthy, and awesome in their educational pursuits. We believe that each student can graduate ready for college and or a career. To do so, we will provide a safe, nurturing, and engaging learning environment that meets individuals' wellness, social, and emotional needs. Item 5 is any district resident who'd like to speak to any item on the agenda. And item 6 is presentations. Lisa.
All right. So here we've got the insurance proposal with EMC is the main insurance provider. As you can see in your board packet, there was some major changes that were done, and they were listed out. So the umbrella that EMC, that the school had was $4 million, and it's decreasing down to $3 million. That's the most you can get on your umbrella. There is $2 million of on the general liability. So you'll have $2 million of liability coverage on your general liability plus the $3 million on your umbrella. The other major change is that the excess umbrella that EMC used to have a shared group, so the school is put in with the group, and they are removing that. EMC is no longer going to offer the excess shared umbrella, and so is what their EMC gesture is offering through Old Republic is another $5 million per occurrence, or $5 million, total. So you'll really have a total of $10 million of general liability coverage. And the good thing about that is that the reason why they're not having the excess umbrella shared between all the schools is because a couple of schools exhausted it. So it used to be $15 million, and then once they used it, it was done for the whole year. So now the school is going to be able to have up to $10 million of liability, and now they are going to include sexual abuse and molestation. So it's kind of a bonus. You get more coverage there for the Owen Community School District. Work comp wages, we increased them by 6%, and the work comp mod went down, which is really good because the work comp mod, if it's over 1, it means that you have more claims than the people in your group. So that's really good. So the rate went down. And the property, this is kind of the main thing, is reinsurance is driving a lot of deductible increases for wind and hail. You'll probably see this on your personal homeowners policies. So now for the Wings Park and middle school, the wind hail deductible is going to be $25,000. Okay, and the high school is going to be $50,000. And current deductible is $5,000 per occurrence. And so to offset that, they are, well, down below, we'll talk about that, but they have where you can buy the wind hail deductible at the bottom there. So you can buy down to a $10,000 deductible for Wings Park Middle School and High School. So every occurrence would be $10,000 or 15. There's not that much of a difference to go from 10 to 15, but that's an option that the school can offer. Another main thing is that the cyber coverage just changed from CFC to Travelers, and they did that for the premium. It was cheaper to go Travelers than CFC, and they're like based on US, so it's quicker response time. So we talked about the different options to help with the deductible, or help with the premium. The property, you can buy the wind hail buy down, the wind hail deductible buy down, and then the auto, there's not a huge difference to increase your deductibles for comp and collision, but there's a little bit if you want to go from 1,000 to 2,000 or 1,000 to 3,000. And the linebacker, this is one that you may want to consider. is to increase the deductibles. Right now, there's, I believe, a $1,500 deductible. And so if you increase it to $2,500 per occurrence, it would save the school about $2,300 in premium. So that's a good option. And then the cyber, there are the different coverage options. You currently have $1 million. You can go up to $2 or $3 million. There's the premiums for those two. Then on the next page, this just kind of goes over the claims. So the linebacker was the one I was talking about that you should just go down further. That one, you've only had one claim in 5 years. So to increase your deductible to $2,500 is probably a good option. It just kind of goes over the different claims there that have happened. Any questions so far?
Lisa, what's the linebacker cover?
That's like, if the school were to be sued for something that this, like a student issue, kind of a legal liability.
No.
Okay, so right here you can see these are the different options. So basically option 1 is comparable to what you currently have, but the wind hail deductible is thrown in there. So the $10,000 or the $15,000, you can see the difference in premium side by side. There's only one option for like the inland marine, so there's that. So the inland marine would be like the husky dog outside, or the school that, or the home that is being built, or remodeled from the school. So the general liability, there's only the 2 and 4 million. Actually, it's 2 and 4, and then the umbrella, there's only one option for the 3 million. The auto, there's a couple different deductibles. I did not put in the third column there with a $3,000 deductible, but you can kind of see the difference in premium between the linebacker and the different deductibles there. And then on the far side is kind of what Michael and I were visiting about, to give you an option. We kind of felt like maybe you'd go with a higher linebacker deductible, so there's that premium. But otherwise, there's a $5,000 property deductible right up there, and then the $10,000 deductible for wings, the middle school and high school. But if you wanted to like add in the $15,000, you just replace those premiums. And so the auto in there is at $1,000. There was a huge savings to go up to $2,000. Any other questions?
Do we have any property claims? I mean, where we could justify keeping the higher deductible or lower deductible.
We had the tornado.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's kind of, I'm hoping not a major thing.
Yeah, well, I think the trend is with, in schools, they're seeing more hail, wind, and tornado damage more frequently.
Yeah.
That was the derecho really destroyed the gesture group policy, that $15-20 million that everybody bought into. Well, it's first come first serve. Well, it doesn't take long when you have 30 or 40 schools damaged in a derecho for that $20 million to go away. So I think that is a good. I think the thinking through that has been an improvement, that now everybody gets $5 million versus the group purchase.
The general liability.
Yeah.
For the property, in the last 5 years, there's been 7 claims. So the tornado was a huge portion of that.
Comes down a little bit to splitting hairs on some of those other ones, that save you a couple thousand here, a couple thousand there.
What was our premium last year?
So it's about a 16% increase if we go by option or by that last line.
Yeah, we
So some schools
built in
saw,
a 25% cushion.
some schools saw a lot more.
Any other
Yep.
questions? All right, thank you very much. All right, on to reports. Ms. Adams. Yeah, because the other.
Just a few things with, the secondary teachers for next year are going to be doing content level Zooms with our middle school students. So they will not only get their social Zoom during the week, they're also going to get a science, math, and ELA Zoom at a designated time. So they'll have Zooms Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. What we found is it was really easy for some of the kids to get off task, get really far behind. So the content level Zoom is going to enable teachers to pre-teach, to provide more MTSS support, as well as for things like Mr. Regan to do a hands-on lab. A lot of the labs that are built in online, the kids can't do. So he would be able to present, do labs with the kids. Ms. Ingalls would be able to work on writing papers with the kids. And then the hope is that at the end of the week, or at the end of the Zoom, the teacher will say, next week, we need you to be to this lesson. So kind of moving kids a little bit as a group, that hopefully also will build some of those social awareness skills. And then with that, we're going to be building in some more time into Odyssey with our gen ed teachers. So this year, our gen ed, Mr. Regan, Ms. Ingalls would hop in and out of our Odyssey classroom. Next year, they're going to have scheduled times in the Odyssey classroom to provide those gen ed supports to our Odyssey students.
Jeannie asked me to share her report, if that's okay with
Sure,
you guys.
yeah.
She's out at the our baseball, softball games, whatever's going on tonight, I forgot. So first thing that she wanted to bring up is she just wanted to thank you all for the support the last 2 years. I know she's really enjoyed doing this activities director role. She's really looking forward to moving to elementary and getting going there. So she just wanted me to pass that along. As far as summer lifting goes, we've been averaging about 45 students for the high school and about 20 for the middle school. Mr. Vanderloop and Mr. Lake and Ms. Jacobs put together a remind group, and so they've been sending out things to the kids, like their times for their flying 20s and things like that, and I think the kids really enjoy that. I know Mr. Vanderloop spent a lot of time setting up a spreadsheet and putting out all that data, so I think the kids really appreciate it. Healthy baseball, they've got 19 years graduating this year, so it's a big group. Right now they're 7 and 13, and we're hoping we get a chance to host some games out at the complex. Softball, we've got 3 graduating. Their senior night is this Friday against Postville, and during that time we'll also recognize the state girls golf, and they're currently 8 and 11 with a week and a half to go. So awesome stuff. We had a really, really great spring. As I'm sure some of you are aware, I've talked about golf before. Brandon Jr. ended up getting 3rd overall, which was pretty cool. He was named to the all-tournament state team by the Iowa High School Golf Coaches Association. Try that one. So that was a pretty cool honor. He lost to a kid that set the state record as a freshman at 11 under. It's never been done before, so that was kind of crazy. And then he lost to last year's state champ. So the 2 people he lost to he's in pretty good company. So that was pretty impressive. The girls got 9th at state out of 10. I would say that most of the girls would say they didn't golf their best. I think some nerves got to them, but they had a great experience. I would say I think Mr. Hadley maybe heard some chirping about some of the goofy stuff that was going on, but I won't get into that. I think they had a good time, all in all. So bad golf, whatever, but they had a good lot of fun. State track, Connell Sauser came back with 2 medals. He got 5th in the 1600 and 6th in the 3200, and then Garrett Keel got 4th in the 110 high hurdles. And Ray and Jacob both ran well, but they were up against some pretty stiff competition and didn't come home with any medals this time. But making it down there is quite an achievement in itself. So, yeah, I think that's the bulk of it.
Let's see, Miss Hampton.
All right, summer school and June Academy are in full swing, and things are going well. Summer school kids are having a lot of fun. June Academy here not, but they are working hard to get caught up. The 3 teachers that are doing that June Academy have done a nice job creating a system so that there are breaks in between. And we are seeing some kids really make some growth, and then if you wanna shake them and say, why didn't you do that during the school year? Just found out that today. Our building schedule is done, but our teacher roster is still not complete, so I'm continually working on that and sending out cold emails and making weird phone calls. Cleaning and organizing is in process. Appreciate all the hard work being done by our janitorial staff. And then lastly, some staff chose to partake in a book study, and so we met today for the first time. And we're reading 2 different books, and some of them are doing both of the books for the study, and it's really exciting the conversations we had and thinking about next year and the excitement and things that they're like, we can do this, and the growth we could see. So it's exciting to have that going on already this summer. So yeah, that's about it.
Are you ready again, Mr. Kennan, or Hadley? Mr. Hadley,
I
whichever
do.
one.
I got you. Mr. Kennan mentioned Mr. Vanderloop for the kind of the morning workout sessions. He and Mr. Lake, they are doing a great job creating some competition in the weight room. It's a lot of fun, a lot of skills. Mr. Gaylor, lots of other coaches involved too. But right after he's done with that, he rolls in and he has started a new course for summer school. So we offer 2 tracks this year. We offer things that we don't get to do during the school year that are like unique to give kids opportunities, and then we also offer remedial kind of credit recovery as well. So Mr. Vanderloop and several other teachers are offering some classes. As you know, we don't have a family consumer science program. So Mr. Vanderloop has actually created a food and nutrition class, and honestly, I was a little nervous because I was like, what does Josh know about cooking? He's a bachelor, he's, whatever. I mean, it's cool. But, I mean, oh my gosh, they're awesome. Like, they go down the fairway on Monday morning, they have to pick out all of their ingredients for the week, and then they just cook all week long. And for some of these students, that's their meal for the day. There's some food insecurity, and they take it home. He makes sure they have plenty so they can take it home. And they have just been absolutely crushing it. And so it's a lot of fun. It's a diverse thing, everything from hobo meals, which I didn't know was a thing. Apparently, you just wrap it in clothes.
Seriously?
Yeah, I don't know.
From Southern Iowa?
There you go. I don't know. Yeah. He's got him out working the grill. I think he's going to have him go out and do the concession stand for one of the games, just like all kinds of practical living. So it's been a lot of fun, and the kids honestly are having a great time and learning a lot. So
Monkey bread is on point.
kudos. What's that?
The monkey bread.
Monkey bread, yeah. I mean, it's
so good.
They're doing a great job. Our other students on the other track have already captured more than a dozen credits. Just 2 weeks in, we've got 2 weeks to go. We're hoping to get a dozen more or so. Everything from in-person math to O2 and Connie have been wonderful in helping us with some other online credit recovery for some kiddos that maybe aren't able to come in and sit and do that. So that's awesome. As far as healthy, probably one of our biggest points of emphasis, other than attendance this year, was our conditions of learning survey. Our numbers have been fairly dismal the last couple of years. And so we really focused on the student relationships, setting boundaries and expectations, and you can see from this graphic it really paid off. We went up in every single category, and in fact beat the state average in every single metric. So we are super stoked. My only worry is how we're going to get above that bar. We went so far, like next year we'll see. But I believe in our students, I believe in our staff. I think we can continue to grow. So this is exciting. It's weird to think that 50% is great. I don't think it's great, but the state average for a lot of these is 40%, 35%. It's just a weird kind of metric. It's anything less than excellent starts to give you a negative. So it's a 1 to 5 scale. So it's like, I don't know if you've ever had hey, we take this survey. If you don't give me anything less than a 5, I don't get my bonus or whatever. Like, it's that, right? So if they do a 4, like, life is pretty good, but not that great, it actually counts as a negative against us. So it's got to be, it's a weird, it's a D thing, but all that being said, obviously we're going to work on emotional safety. The number's still pretty low. We've got some plans for that, but I'm really excited for our staff and kind of be rolling out. And then kind of awesome, something different maybe outside of OHS, but I think it's great to see our students doing things in our community. We had 3 students, Allie, Jenna, and Natalie represent OHS, Ms. Oline, and really just fun to see all three of those young ladies highly involved in our school and great representatives, and it's fun to see them kind of go out and represent our community as well. So a lot of good stuff happening.
All right, any questions for any of them?
I just had one. Staffing at middle school, so we got some positions open yet,
Oh, yeah.
or we got them open?
We have one ELA position. I was really excited about a person and she told me today she was not going to accept it. And then 2 special ed positions.
Okay, thanks.
All right, no public.
And the special ed positions have been posted since February, so we've been working on it.
All right, on to consent agenda items. Just need a motion or any questions?
Motion to accept or move to accept the consent agenda items as presented.
Joe made the motion and Joni seconded to approve the consent agenda items. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Opposed, the same. Motion passes. Item 11, A is to approve the EMC insurance package.
So, from Lisa's presentation, there's a lot of splitting hairs here if you want to get too deep into that. Michael and I talked a little bit about this. We think the buy down of the premium, the deductible on wind and hail is worth it. So that's that $6,848 to get it down to $10,000, or $5,757 to get it down to $15,000 versus the $50,000 that they're putting in the renewal. And so that's the big one. And then the other one is the cybersecurity. That's a huge push from EMC. They're requiring all school districts in the state of Iowa that carry EMC to have 2-party authentication from their staff members. And we believe that the next phase may be to push it out to students, which we have some concerns about. But it's just that if you don't have 2-party authentication and can't prove it to them, then they'll drop your coverage because they're getting so much. If they're getting attacked by Des Moines, Cedar Rapids, West Delaware are some big ones that just have happened in the last couple of years where they've had cyber attacks. Good news for us, we have almost everything offsite. So we have very few in-house documents anymore digitally. So our student information system is offsite. Our financial systems are offsite. All email, all of our documentation stuff is offsite. Our learning management system is offsite. And then we've just last month approved K-12 Docs, which will move all of our HR documents offsite and digitized. So there is almost nothing that we're hosting anymore internally. So if someone were to attack our stuff, they're attacking a much bigger network, like Infinite Campus, which has dozens of states and thousands of schools. So we're not the only ones that would suffer, and they would solve the problem, not at our cost. So I don't think that additional coverage on cybersecurity is necessary. I think the $1 million is plenty. And we've done all the right things to mitigate our risk generally anyway, without even needing to worry about the premium. So we can certainly discuss any of them, but I would recommend just taking option 1 as presented here. And like I said, Lisa mentioned the quote was what her and Michael had kind of worked on. But the deductible linebacker is nice. I mean, I know we have an ongoing case now. We've only had one other one in 5 years. But I think that's a trend that could increase. So I think that the $1,500 is okay. on that linebacker policy. So I would recommend option one unless there's any. I mean, you guys can certainly dig in and make your own custom one if you want.
Which of the buckets is the premium and the?
Great question. I was gonna mention that. So it comes out of management. So our deductibles come out of management, and our premium comes out of management. And this is a 16% increase. When we built the budget back in March, we budgeted for a 25% increase. So we have room for whatever we want to do. There's room to go up either way.
I move we adopt option number one for our EMC insurance package for 2023-2024.
I'll second.
Bob Cald made the motion, Bob Bosco seconded it to approve option one as presented. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Opposed, the same. Motion passes. Let's see. And on to
Bids.
bids, yeah. I thought you were saying something.
Nope,
Lowest bid
sorry.
for the construction of the rehab of the high school parking lot.
All right, Matt, you're up.
So you had an item for public hearing, did you wanna, was this on the list for the public hearing? To do officially review the plans and specs and form a contract and cost estimate, approve them, and then we go through the bids?
No. Does it need to be?
There was a notice, that was part of the newspaper notice, that it was
So it was
advertised.
it was that there was notice.
Yes,
Okay.
so that was part of that publication I gave you Michael the other day. So that, I think you're covered, you've got a public
Yeah.
hearing here on the agenda. So.
Sure.
So you want to do the public hearing or?
Well, we can. I mean, I don't think there's anybody here for the public hearing anyway.
I just,
We're at
maybe just note at the minutes that you've opened it. And then we talk about it and you can close it.
Okay.
Just so that it's all documented. So the drawings are basically set up like we talked before. We did add that center turn aisle, like was discussed. I didn't put medians on the side of it, I just used painted stripes just to give a little bit of leniency as people are turning through there. That's, I always hate it when they're so tight, and you're jumping the curb. Basically the plan set's the same as what we talked about the last time I was here. Unit prices, I have those unit quantities, there's an example out there on the, so each of those are bid items. It's a little bit different than a building construction project where we have all of those bid items on the side. It's a unit price contract, so some of these items of there's cubic yards and there's estimated quantities. So like soil quantity, that's the plant quantity, that really won't change. Let's say pavement or sidewalk over seeding, we actually measure those things and pay for whatever is put down. So the actual contract may vary a little bit by the end of the project, just to give a little bit of leniency there. But our engineer's opinion and total price was $626,000. So they're all the way down to the bottom. And then last Thursday, we opened up bids and we had a really good showing. We had 7 bids to open, and then, actually an 8th one showed up about 36, it was too late. And we went through and we tabulated the results there, and Skyline came in as the low at 18% under our estimate. Eastern Iowa Excavating came in 14% under, and Baker came in 6.3% 3. So a really nice grouping for numbers. High was Larson at 857, and then you see the rest of them there. Any questions? We have it set up so that there's 2 phases in the contract like we talked. July, they can start July 1, which might be a little bit quick. September 29th is the, make sure I'm reading this right here. We have a specified completion date of September 29th for this year for curb and gutter and having a rock surface and the entrance is built. And then July 1, 24 through September 29th of 24 is the construction period allowed for finished paving, striping, finish the islands, and then finish up those light poles. Just to kind of spread those things out over 2 fiscal years.
And those bids are for the total project?
Yes. Yep. Correct.
Yeah, so not very often then you get to have several bids that are under budget. In particular, those of you who've been around a while, if you may recall, Skyline did some work for the district about 10 years ago. They redid the tennis courts, and there was some disagreement with how the finished product resulted, and ended up getting litigated between their attorney, the attorney for the architect, and our attorney. The 10% retainage was held, and there was some work done, and then they came back 2 years later and did the work, and then there was a final price negotiated between the attorneys. It was all settled in 2017, so the whole thing took 5 years. So all those folks from our side are gone, and I don't know, Matt, you talked to Skyline specifically about that with our concerns. I'd send a note to our attorney just about, what kind of capacity the board has to reject a bidder, or reject all the bids and rebid. So you can still do that. The board can elect to not take any of the bids. I know Matt and I have talked through what that looks like. If you would elect to do that, so probably would cause a 3 to 6 month delay. We'd probably be bidding, again in the winter, and then it would be, you put all the construction into one summer, essentially. You may lose bids, price may go up. So there's risk either way. I think Matt talked with Skyline. I think from their perspective, it very much was an architect problem that just got kind of wrapped up in subcontractors and attorneys.
Right. The way they described it to me, it was the contract documents require the post to be installed before the asphalt, and then the asphalt paver, which was a subcontractor to Skyline, had to lay asphalt around all those posts, which on an asphalt tennis court surface, that grade is very critical, and if they're having to navigate around those, that in my mind, there's going to be issues there, and then evidently that's what that resulted in some ponding and some poor drainage on the control of the asphalt. So it wasn't, the Skyline was the prime, but the asphalt was laid by a sub. I don't know how it all panned out and why it took 5 years. So, sometimes the worst part about making a mistake is fighting about it. But at least I don't know. We're having that same issue in another project. It's a tennis court project where the primes work and the asphalt is great. It's the surfacing sub that we're arguing with. So sometimes it's just hard to really lay blame on one particular, say, prime contractor on something that he may not have had total control over.
So Skyline won a contract with the district. I think it was in 2019. They did the sewer connection for the Husky construction houses. It was about a $40,000 project where they just hooked up the houses to the city sewer, had to tear up some street, put the street back in. They completed the work in about a week, no issues. So I've never had issues with them. It's just the history of the district. Matt and I have talked at length about this, and I think we've come to terms with the fact that if we have more eyeballs on it, and CGA has had the conversations up front, they can be more diligent about their product as they go forward. I'm aware of it. I can be more diligent about our processes as we also take a look at things and bring concerns up. CGA had a superintendent on site when we did the Little Husky playground work, preparing for that. Discovered that we didn't have enough sub base underneath the basketball court. They got a hold of me. They got a change order. They got the stuff done. And it didn't slow anything down. So I think that we would expect the same level of performance from CGA in this. So my concerns have been tempered just in conversation, and I appreciate Matt getting a hold of Skyline and kind of airing our concerns with them. Them being aware that we're concerned, I think, has value too. So I don't know. You hate to turn down such a great bid.
It does seem like contractors are hungry right now. We're being approached by several that they're trying to fill up their schedule, which that hasn't been the case for a couple of years. I'm not quite sure what that means for the industry as a whole, but it does seem like these prices are. We haven't seen these types of prices for a couple of years, so. There is, say, that particular issue with ponding. This parking lot has more grade going across than a tennis court has. Concrete is a lot easier to maintain a grade control, and I don't know what the architect's involvement was during construction, but I know ours are, and how we budgeted our proposal was to have a technician on site a good chunk. I wouldn't say 100% of the time, but a good chunk of the time they'll be checking grade on the slope, checking those quantities. Just we are a lot more hands-on on our projects than say a typical architectural construction phase services.
Well, when we get to the end of the day, and we have a dispute with Skyline, they're not gonna let us go to court. Because I always think in my mind, there's always gonna be an issue come up. It's how the person I'm buying things from handles the issue. If Skyline decided the way that they were gonna handle a mistake on their part was let us go to court. Let us get an attorney, not just clean up the mess. And it doesn't really matter to me, it's all semantics. If we're gonna go ahead and go with the way we've done other projects, we'll have a bid from every subcontractor, and then we'll deal with them directly. But we're dealing with one contractor. He's responsible for all the subcontractors under him, and saying that it was a subcontractor problem is nothing but an excuse. The bank went broke, so we're not gonna make the Skyline payment. That doesn't fly either, does it? Because that's really what they did. And when push come to shove, and they could have done it right, they just pushed it off on the district and let us get an attorney and pay a bunch of attorney's fees. I really don't like doing business with people like that. I don't like, because you don't trust them anymore. That's my opinion. And if I was bidding this thing and I was doing it, I wouldn't even consider it. I just pay the other, what is it, $20,000, $30,000 and get somebody I can trust. Whether we can do that legally or not, I don't know. That's a whole other issue. Requires more attorneys, that we shouldn't be having this discussion. And except we had to go to court with them last time.
for jobs with them lately, recently?
It was a couple of years ago at the Decorah Airport, there was some to Wix Construction. I can't recall, I don't remember hearing anything significant. You know, minor stuff on that. I did ask around our firm, and nobody else had really worked with them. They are owned by Bruning Rock, so Bruning is a big rock supplier around here. So.
All the items on this inventory list, is that included labor, like brick paper, it says?
Yes.
So that's material and labor for each line item.
And I think, yeah, there are those options is to reject all. Find the lowest responsible bidder, and that bar is pretty high. That, you know, and the district's attorney provided an opinion on that process. I guess I've never really gone through that type of a process that they described.
Yeah, it seemed a little bit extensive to even present at a public hearing. So they wanted to have a public hearing announcing that we were not going to have that one of the bidders was not responsible.
Correct. And then give them an opportunity to come in and discuss with you how they've changed operations or not.
Yeah, I think we've missed that window. I think the legal choice we have tonight is to accept Skyline's bid and award them the contract, or reject all bids and go through the process of changing the scope, potentially somewhat to rebid it, or waiting for different, more favorable market conditions and rebidding it again in 3 to 6 months.
3 to 6 months is kind of the guideline that I've heard used.
So the consequences of that, so the consequence of the latter is that we miss the preliminary, that fall window. And we would essentially try to do the whole project in the summer, start to end.
Does that do something crazy to the budget?
No, it wouldn't impact the budget, because you could still float over 2 fiscal years. You would still do some preliminary costs in 24 and finish it in 25.
What do you think, Matt? Is that everybody's bid gonna go up? Do you think going out another 6 months, do you see the bidders being this aggressive?
I would find that highly unlikely.
Right.
I mean, I'm amazed at these numbers. I mean, even the first, second, third numbers are pretty good. That would be my biggest concern is you might end up paying an extra $50,000 for this.
Or if something goes wrong, a lot more than $50,000.
You just said number 2, number 3 aren't gonna have issues either with that.
Well, yeah, no, right, yeah. I just don't pet the same dog that bit me.
And, you know, there are the performance bonds and the payment bonds that are part of this, and the maintenance bond for after the project is completed. Those are all built in. Granted, to tap those, you still need to, it gets pretty ugly to tap those, but just sometimes the sheer threat to the bonding company then gets the contractor's attention.
You feel like your people are pretty assertive in if they're seeing something?
We've worked with some pretty crummy contractors before. I guess going into it knowing that we just need to be more diligent, maybe we would give them less slack at the get-go. Maybe, you know, when I called up the project manager and talking with him, I mean, he knew exactly what the concern was. He was part of Skyline 10 years ago. And I guess just the fact that they must have discussed it internally and then they still decided to present the bid as aggressively as they did. In my mind, that kind of says something that they're still interested in doing business with you. Because I'm sure it wasn't too much fun on their side of the table either, even though they were the ones pushing it. And then, who knows, maybe it was that sub, but granted, the prime was controlling the sub, but still if the sub digs in their heels, it's harder, it's still a fight.
And is it hard for them then to find a different sub? Do they have the same rules? They don't have the same rules as we do.
Well, this would be a concrete project.
Oh, yeah.
Not bringing in sub. And I did go into the details with the project manager to see how much of this they're self-performing, or what their schedule was, or anything like that. But I mean, I understand, their business philosophy is just, might be such that they'd rather pick the fight than to do the right thing. But
Do you do completion contracts? They have it done by a specific date?
So if they don't hit that milestone for this, there are liquidated damages will be assessed.
It's in the bid package.
Yeah, it was in that bid package. I want to say 100 days.
Yeah, that sounds right.
So there are incentives for them to meet that. So that's.
So would it be,
500 a day, yeah.
would it make sense or would it be possible if we're taking this bid and it is lower than the second one to maybe contract with Matt for additional services to watch them a little bit closer than we would normally watch somebody? Not to eat up the difference, obviously, between the two bids.
I mentioned that in our conversations, that we have some scope of room to be able to add additional time from the from a superintendent to make sure they're here on, we're gonna do some preliminary, we're gonna check before they pour.
Yeah.
Like some of those kind of things.
Right. Don't even let them
Yeah,
do much of anything without somebody being present.
yeah. Is that something you guys are willing or have scope
Yeah,
to?
that's perfectly acceptable. I mean, that would be our normal practice and recommendation.
Yeah, and that's always been the benefit that the board's followed in the past with like a construction manager, is that we're paying that premium because they're there when things happen.
Right.
So that they can catch the things that they don't want to see. Yeah, I would appreciate that. I mean, I'm willing to go out there and do some of those things too, but they have the training and the know-how to know what they're looking at and making sure that you got 6 inches of rock and you got the right grade and, they're pouring it, they're cutting the right expansion joints and all that stuff.
The soil density compaction, proof roll the soil, proof roll the rock.
Yeah.
All that before they put things down.
That would sort of make me feel a little more comfortable if that was gonna happen. Doing our regular route where we don't get that type of response all the time. Where it's not in the contract, but that has to actually be watched to that degree. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We are doing the construction staging and the layout for that. And then the materials testing the concrete so that it has the right slope and has the right air content before it gets poured. Make sure there's curing compounds for all that sort of, the details that engineers like to check on.
Any other questions? Because we're just in public hearing right now, right? Or are we just going on and moving on to this?
No, you can close the public hearing whenever you want and go to the action item.
All right.
We'll just make sure it's noted in the minutes.
Yeah, all right, we're out of the public hearing now. And now we're on to action item B, to approve the lowest bid for construction.
So after hearing all that, I kind of concluded before the meeting, I think that, and I talked to Matt, that I think it's a smaller risk to go with Skyline and watch them closely than it is to wait. If you weigh the two risks, and like Bob said, like you can have problems with any contractor,
Right.
but I don't. It's not lost on me that they've not shown their best hand before. So with all that being said, I would recommend approving Skyline as the low bid contractor and awarding them the contract, and then knowing that Matt and I can work if we want to do an amendment to our contract or pick out a kind of a scope. We can either bring that back to the board or kind of have some leverage in our ability to negotiate those terms.
The biggest cost is probably the concrete, right? More than likely, just the concrete itself.
Yeah, it's about a third of the cost.
Yeah.
They're guaranteed they're gonna lock in that cost. It's not gonna be a big surprise when we get further down the road.
No, and their cost is not lower. I mean, as far as the low bid, there are others that have lower concrete numbers than they do.
Yes, but the price that they put on there, they have to abide by that. There's nothing in there to say that if the cost of materials go up, we're gonna raise the prices.
Correct. And I guess that's instead of bidding it in two bid packages, that's the nice part is we're locking these in over that 2-year period.
I guess I'll make the motion to accept the lowest bid for the concrete, for the parking lot project.
Bob Buska made the motion and Joni seconded to approve the bid as presented. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Opposed, the same, motion passes.
So our next step, we'll kind of create that contract document, send it to the contractor, get them to sign it, and they'll provide the insurance and bonding certificates, and we'll bring them back to you.
Perfect.
So, and then we'll see what their schedule is.
All right, sounds good.
Great,
Thanks, Matt.
thank you so much.
Anything else for me?
Nope, you're good.
All right.
Safe travels.
All good, thank you.
All right, on to item C is to approve the lease staff discount agreement with the Little Husky Childcare.
So during COVID, Little Husky asked for reprieve from their lease, and then just trying to get their feet back underneath them, and then had a new director. It's kind of ran into some financial issues, has started to recover now that they've stabilized both staffing and kind of their numbers in childcare are back to where they were pre-pandemic. However, over the course of time, they've amassed about a $24,000 debt to the district in back lease payments. So outside of just forgiving them and washing them away, negotiated a terms of agreement with them to provide all of our staff that use Little Husky Childcare a 10% discount on tuition. Right now, it would average about $500 a month. And then in terms of real costs, so that would basically help them buy down their debt. So we could enter into this agreement for 4 years, and then in 4 years their debt would be wiped away. And at that time we could see if it worked, if we liked it, we could renegotiate, extend it, do whatever we wanted with the agreement. We have 6 staff members, we have 6 students, kids right now that attended that are staff members. And we've hired some, and I think that we have the potential to have 2 or 3 more. So this could be a really nice incentive for our staff to say, hey, like, especially the staff that could have possibility to take their kids to other communities for childcare. So I'd recommend approval.
I'll make a motion to approve the staff discount agreement with them.
Second.
Joni made the motion and Joe seconded to approve the agreement with Little Husky Childcare as presented. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Opposed, the same. Motion passes. Item D is to approve the OHS student handbook, high school.
All right, Mr. Hadley, you're up.
Yeah, I'll keep it really brief. We didn't make a ton of big level changes with, as mentioned earlier, we're really happy with the direction things are going with our students. The only two big kind of recommendations that we would offer are our language of truancy. We've changed to unexcused absence because we feel that anytime you're gone without cause, it's unexcused rather than, truant makes it sound like you're just kind of without cause. So there's times that we're just trying to, I guess, clean up with that attendance focus. Yeah, we know that you're not truant because someone called you in, but the reason they called you in is not okay, right? So it's not acceptable to our policy. So we've just changed that language to say unexcused absence. We've got a certain number that you hit, and then that triggers some intervention for us. Not every student that hits that number, needs an intervention. I would say Sailor Faith Hadley missed way more school than she should have, right? My own kid. Lots of reasons, right? She went on a missions trip. She went on a London trip. Those are experiences as a dad I want her to have. Those are experiences I want our students to have. Not all of our kids are having those experiences. They're having video games and Cheetos, right? So we're just trying to separate that out. They just put some language in to do that. And the other big one, it's a different world. It always is. We put in language with our plagiarism and cheating policies to counteract artificial intelligence, also known as AI. You may or may not be aware. It used to just like copy your buddy's homework in the locker room. Now you just type it in. You've always been able to kind of Google it, but it would give you someone else's. Now it gives you an original to yours. So it looks original because the computer created it on its own and it's authentic to you, but you still didn't do it. So we've tightened our language to include that that's also not okay. That kind of bypasses the whole learning that we'd like you to have, that you're just learning to get smarter with your crimes. So we just prefer that you just do the work. And so there are plagiarism checkers, AI checkers, things like that. And there's just a dead language. It's like any computer right now writes it out, you can kind of tell. And we know our students well enough, that's part of what we do. Like I said earlier, emphasis on relationships. We know when a student writes the word articulates instead of the word says, right? So different vocabulary that maybe wasn't there. So those are the only two additions that we've made other than just updating the staff and kind of cleaning up. We still have our PRIDE expectations. We've moved to EDGE. That's still part of our PBIS work. We just use that acronym EDGE as kind of a basis for how we handle behavior, and we talk about positive reactions to that. That was still some of the language that we also cleaned up. So, any questions?
Recommend approval.
I move we approve the OHS student handbook as presented.
I'll second.
Bob Cald made the motion, Bob Buska seconded to approve the handbook as presented. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Opposed, the same. Motion passes. On to approve the middle school handbook.
Alright, fast. Basically just did some minor shifting where we have our middle school staff information. Talked about the designated locations before school. We were finding that a lot of students were roaming and we were just having some vandalism down in classes and things like that. So we've tightened that up. Health service, we just changed some verbiage. Canvas, we are gonna, I've been pushing since I got here about teachers having Canvas pages. So we put regarding having a landing page for families so that this will help with our communication, which is a big goal of mine. We did add a section about academic integrity. We just stole it from the high school. Thank you.
Cool. Gotcha.
Cell phones, which I brought up in previous. So just we're going to continue to do that, and then just like the normal yearly changes, bell schedules, minor additions added to tardy and attendance section, just to make it easier to navigate, and then including the links. And all numbers have been removed because of deleting and adding items. It just is kind of change all numbering because somehow the way it was formatted. That's about it.
Any questions?
Recommend approval.
I move to approve the Ojai Middle School handbook.
I'll second.
Bob Cobb made the motion, Joni seconded to approve the middle school handbook as presented. Discussion. All in favor, raise your hand. Opposed, the same, motion passes. F is to approve the pre-K elementary handbook.
So Jamie worked with Justin, so it's kind of a collaboration of their work. First of all, this is the first time we've had a pre-K handbook. So it used to just be one handbook. So now it's split out so that there's one for Little Husky and there's one for Wings Park. And you can see there, she's listed out some of the different things. Mostly it is just adding things that are currently in place. It's not a new head lice policy, it's just our current policy, it's just in the handbook. Updated the transfer policy dates that all the buildings do each year with like O2. And then the pre-K handbook, just made sure that some of the things that we needed in there were in there, like the lunch prices, and then information about riding a bike, and then submitting absences on the app, or the school's app for parents. So more parent-based than student-based for the pre-K work, but all in all, it's good work and things that are needed and necessary. And recommend that we approve both the Little Husky, or the pre-K handbook, and the Wings Park handbook.
I'll make a motion to approve the pre-K elementary handbook.
I'll second.
Bob Buska made the motion, Joni seconded to approve the pre-K and elementary student handbook as presented. Discussion. All in favor, raise your hand. Opposed, the same, motion passes. G is the Owine Online.
Most of our changes were tightening up language that was already in the handbook and then matching with the high school, middle, and elementary, using the same academic integrity language as the middle school and high school, so it was consistent. Transferring within the district, providing that time frame, early graduation, that the paperwork aspect still applies. A couple of things that were added or changed with the attendance policy. The attendance policy originally stated logging in 1 hour per class per day. Kids will outwit us every time. They logged in for 1 hour per class per day, but they didn't accomplish things. So tweaking the language to budgeting 1 hour per class per day, but completing 80 to 100 learning activities a week, because that's what we want is the outcomes, the learning activities. Clarifying which grade levels have art, music, and PE for parents. We also had nothing in our handbook about state testing, the requirements that are asked, MAPS, ISASS, the fact that we may ask them to transport their students to a location. We kept it within 20 minutes of a home this past year. I don't see where that would change. And then adding in course completion, how and when a course is completed, besides hitting that 100% mark, we have that incentive for students to work and earn a good grade to save them from having to do the big cumulative test at the end of a unit. So putting that wordage into the handbook.
One of the cool things about the course or the content completion component, so the Department of Ed required us to have like time-based components in our handbook to become certified as an online or virtual school. But they found that it's not all that effective in terms of actually tracking progress and keeping kids on pace. And so they've gone to this model of tracking task completion. and it is very rigorous. So imagine doing 80 to 100 course tasks in a week. Learning tasks, and you really have to sit down and get your stuff together every single day. So commend them for doing that, and it's really made a huge difference in terms of kids, checking boxes that they're getting stuff done.
The completion rate of courses went up when we were able to provide a number or a goal for kids to work for. It meant a lot more to them than watching a clock.
Recommend approving the OWIN online student handbook.
A motion to approve the line online.
Second.
Jonah made the motion and Joe seconded it to approve the OWIN online student handbook
Why
as
is that
presented.
the
I don't know
same?
why it's so hard to
OWIN
say.
online.
Oh, 2 O's in these things.
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh, two is what I should say.
Alliteration.
Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Opposed, the same, motion passes. H is to approve the activities handbook.
Fairly short, just a couple things reformatted, added some bookmarks, just make it easier to navigate. Updated our coaches and our activities list because that's changed over the course of this year. Bound, if you're not familiar, is required by the state for us to use. So we just added that language in for coaches pre and post season to put in stats and things of that nature. Concussion protocol, we're going to require all student athletes to complete what's called impact testing and to get a baseline for when they suffer possible head injuries. And so our athletic trainer, Mike Vandenhall, if there's a suspected concussion, he'll have them take the impact test, and it compares their results before they were hit in the head to after they were hit in the head, basically. And so that gives us a little better indicator whether or not they sustained a concussion. So I thought that would be a good move to help keep our students safe. And then there was already a parent section in the ad book, just kind of cleaned up some language, really shortened it and kind of cut it in half. There were some redundancies there, and then just added in our sportsmanship policy and how spectators should conduct themselves on school premises, the school premises. So nothing really new there, just added it to our handbook.
As a side note, that sportsmanship policy the board updated last summer after approving the handbook has been, I'd say, fairly effective this year. We have notified a few fans and had to remind them of it, and also consequently have shared this with quite a few other schools in the work that you guys did and taking this so seriously. So it's become a little bit of a model that other schools are strengthening their board policies as well in terms of taking sportsmanship seriously. So I commend you guys for getting after that. Recommend approval of the activities handbook.
I'll make the motion to approve the activities handbook.
Bob Buska made the motion and Bob Call seconded it to approve the activities handbook. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Opposed, the same, motion passes. I is to approve the substitute pay rate.
So this has not been increased for 2 years with inflation and those kind of things. Michael, I think that we should try to keep pace. I gotta zoom in here a little bit, so bear with me. All right, so this is the current rates, 130, 150, and 190, depending on days served. Proposing a 10% increase, which would not meet inflation, but does almost meet with how we've, the 2 years of rate increases for staff. I have this built too, so if you guys want to play with that rate, it'll auto-generate different rates down here, what that looks like. And then also added language. We found with our teacher shortage and with teachers having issues and having to leave mid-year that we've had to have long-term subs for a semester or more. And although the pay is beneficial and the 11 plus rate is about 95% of what a first year teacher would make on contract, they don't get any of the benefits. And if they're working for a whole semester, they don't get any paid time off, and they don't get any vacation, or they don't get any sick days. And by policy, if they break their streak, they're supposed to go back to day one, which isn't good for the subs. It's not good for us. Like, so we added language in there to, you know, help treat them a little bit more like a regular employee when we do get ourselves into those situations. So-
So if they get to the top pay, then they have a sick day or just a day off, and they come back and do the same job that they were doing before.
Yes. Yep. So the language is 30 that they that once they get there, they can use one sick day a month and not lose their consecutive sequence, and every 30 days worked sequentially, they get half of a paid personal day. So it's, I mean, that's if they're, you know, 2.5 months, that would be, they get a free, you know, one full PTO day.
When are they eligible for IBER credit day one?
Yes, we pay in diapers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I'm comfortable with 10, and that's kind of the proposal here. But if you guys want to look at other numbers, I can plug and play.
I move to accept the proposed substitute.
Joe made the motion and Joni seconded to approve the sub pay rate as presented. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Who's the second? All right. Approve marketing agreement with Arcadia Towers.
All right, Wild West on this one, guys. So we've discussed Arcadia Towers marketing agreement to put up cell towers on district property several times. Kind of in the 11th hour, well, you guys asked for due diligence. So we've contacted and got a hold of 3 different school districts. All of them have had marketing agreements and had executed marketing agreements, but none of them had actually put up any towers yet. So they had not actually sold the contracts to anybody as of, you know, right now.
You know how long this one was?
What's that?
How long? Like, what's the last one doing?
Like 15 months they've been under contract. Yep. Friday afternoon, I had a voicemail. I didn't have a chance to check it. It was there this morning, and then Billy, their sales rep, did reach out by email today. They are willing. So I had asked 3 questions. Are they willing to do less in terms of the terms? So less than 5 years, you know, 3 or whatever. Are they willing to do a higher initial payment? So their initial payment to us is going to be $500. So what's their capacity to do more than $500? And then what's their capacity to negotiate on the 25% profit share once a tower is leased and erected? So today I heard back from him, and they are willing to do a 1 year renewal for 5 years. So we would renew the contract every year for 5 years. And they're willing to pay $2,500 upfront versus $500. And they're not willing to move on the 25%. They believe that's top of market, and that's where they're at on that number.
And once they put a tower, that was the thing that was such a long time. What was that? Was that the thing that was 50 or 25 years?
It was 25, I think.
Okay. I mean, every year, time that.
Yeah, so we can review it each year for up to 5 years.
We don't have to sign this for a year up front.
Nope. 1 year, yeah.
They changed 1 year.
Yep.
And we have the option somewhere during that, we gotta give like 180-day notice if we don't wanna renew that.
Yep.
Is there like a clawback on the prorated portion if we opt out?
No, it's, nope, the 2,500 is ours, free and clear. Which almost pays for our attorney's fees and due diligence that we've done.
Yeah, the 500 really would cover it.
No.
And we get the towers that look like trees too, right?
Yeah, I want the tree.
Yeah.
That can all be still negotiated, because this is just the marketing contract, that once they get, if they get and when they get a cell company, then they pick a site, and then you go, there's an additional agreement on that land, has to be a public hearing, there's a whole different contract on that lease agreement. So, if it's successful, which we would hope it would be, our work is not done.
But if in 2 years, somebody else comes to us and gives us a better deal, we don't have to renew that contract. And we can
If-
go to somebody else.
If the market becomes more active and we would have interest, or somebody else starts contacting us saying, hey, we want to do this, we'd say, well, we're under contract with somebody, contact them. Or if we know there's interest, then we could then not renew that
Yeah,
contract.
just say we're
Yes.
in this contract through whatever.
Yep. So those terms, I mean, I'm comfortable with it.
We're basically giving them we got 180 days. That we can decide to end it in 180 days.
Right.
I don't see a whole lot of downside to this.
Good job. By asking the question, not all you did, good job.
I'd make a motion to approve the marketing agreement with our Acadia Towers under those terms,
Under the other terms.
under the new terms.
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
I'll second
Bob Cobb made the motion, Joni seconded to approve the agreement with Arcadia Towers with the new terms. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Opposed, the same, motion passes. K is to approve the creation of a temporary joint subcommittee with the 2080 agreement.
So the city has agreed to create a joint subcommittee with the city, with themselves, with us. That would be co-led between Dylan and I, and there would be three council members and 3 school board members to negotiate a brand new 2080 agreement to push the agreement out another 25 years. I don't know schedule of meeting yet, how often we'll have to meet or when we'll have to meet, but the idea is that that group can do the really heavy lifting and then advocate to the council and to the board in return, so that we shouldn't have to bear the weight of, will the council or board want to nitpick it or cherry pick it or deny it once you get to that point. So that's the hope. So board policy does give Candace the right to create a committee all on her own and to appoint members to it. Did you know you had that power?
I would not ever do that.
But we, elected, the board have to say. Erica has shown interest in being on this committee, so if you approve the creation of it, we would just need to have Erica and 2 other people willing to help negotiate terms with the city.
that.
Okay?
Yes, good job. I think the one, Erin, no, I'm
Erin?
teasing. She's not here, no, I'm teasing. Since I can appoint, I'm teasing. Back in the day, yes, we did. But that was Jim Moeller.
True.
Not me. Oh. So,
So we need one more person. If we're
I
gonna do
mean,
this.
well, I told you. Are we gonna be done in November?
I would hope so.
I mean, I don't
would
wanna
like to.
join on something that,
True.
and-
No, I would like to. I think that we need to get to work on this right away.
Maybe that would give it more urgency.
I mean, I'm not opposed, I don't have anything to do after August. My kids are gone,
Okay.
so I guess I might as well,
All right.
as long as they're not on Tuesday nights from 5 to 7.
Okay. Just need a motion for all that. Create a committee and appoint those 3 members.
All girls. Good job. Literally all guys, I can just see it now. So I can already pick them out.
Well, that's not the kind of attitude you want to go into one of these things with.
Well, I know all of them, so it'll be good. All right. Somebody making the motion? Bob? One of you?
I move we
Bob's? It
create,
was easy to
we
say.
approve the creation of a temporary joint subcommittee to negotiate a new 2080 agreement with the city of Allwine. Members will be, gosh, I hate to say the members when they're not even here.
No, Erica agreed. We already asked her.
You're gonna do it.
And Joni.
Enjoy.
It will be Erica, Joni, and Candace.
You can second.
Yeah, you can second. All right. Bob Cobb made the motion. Joni seconded it to approve just everything that Bob said. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Opposed, the same. Motion passes. I just need a motion to go into closed session, please.
I move that the board goes into closed session.
You gotta read the whole thing.
Gotta read that
Oh, sorry,
little.
I was on the second page.
You're all right. Just read that just sentence.
I move that we hold a closed session and authorized by section 21.51J of the open meetings law to review or discuss records which are required or authorized to be kept confidential.
Second.
Joe made the motion and Bob Cobb seconded it. I don't need to. Oh, yeah, I do.
It is roll call.
All right, roll call. Bob Bowska. Joni.
Yes.
Joe. Bob Cobb. Candace, yes. We are in closed session.
Dismissed.
Oh, yes, it is. Have a good night, everybody.
See ya.
Oh, the store closed, yeah.
Please.